My name is Lena Wilson. I'm 29 years old, and at my sister's wedding, in front of every single person we love, she accused me of sleeping with her fiancé. My own husband stood up in front of the entire room and said he believed her. The crowd turned on me in seconds, and then I looked at her fiancé, smiled, and said, "Play it." Her face went completely white. If you've ever been betrayed by the one person who was supposed to have your back, stay with me. Because what happened next, nobody in that hall saw coming. Subscribe right now and drop your country in the comments. Let's begin. The wedding hall was stunning that night. Golden lights hanging from the ceiling, soft music floating through the air, laughter everywhere, people dressed beautifully, glasses raised, cameras out. From the outside, it looked like a perfect evening. From the inside, something felt wrong. I was standing near the stage holding my 3-year-old daughter. She had her tiny fingers wrapped around my dress, half asleep against my shoulder. I kissed her forehead and held her tighter than I needed to. She was the only thing keeping me grounded. My husband stood across the room, well-dressed, confident, calm. The kind of man people look at and think, he has everything together. I used to think that too. We weren't forced into marriage. We chose each other. We built something real, or at least I thought we did. We had a daughter who felt like the best thing we'd ever done together. But the last few weeks had been different. He came home late, not every night, but enough. His phone was always in his hand. Whenever I asked, he'd smile and say work pressure. I didn't push. When you love someone, you try to believe them, even when something deep in your chest keeps whispering, something is off. I looked around the hall. My parents were glowing with pride. Guests were laughing. Everything felt warm and golden. Then my eyes moved to my sister on stage. She looked breathtaking in her bridal dress. Everyone was saying she was the most beautiful bride they'd ever seen. Her fiancé stood beside her, calm, respectful, the same way he'd always been every time I'd met him. But my sister, she wasn't looking at her fiancé. She wasn't looking at her guests. She was looking at me, again and again, sharp, quick glances, like she was waiting for something. I told myself she was just nervous. It was her wedding day. Anyone would be anxious, but that feeling in my chest wouldn't leave. The music softened. Guests gathered closer. Phones came out. Smiles spread across every face. Now the couple will say a few words. Applause filled the hall. My sister stood up slowly, adjusted her dress, picked up the microphone. I expected something sweet, something emotional. The kind of words a bride says when she's happy and in love. Instead, she looked directly at me, not at the crowd, not at her fiancé, at me. My smile faded before I even realised it. "Before we continue the ceremony," she said softly, "I think everyone deserves to know the truth." Murmurs spread across the room. A few people laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke. I didn't laugh. My eyes shot to my husband. He was no longer relaxed. His face had gone serious. Focused. "What truth?" someone called out. My sister didn't answer. She kept her eyes locked on mine. "My own sister," she said, her voice trembling just enough to sound convincing. "Betrayed me." The hall went completely silent. "She had an affair," my sister continued, "with my fiancé." The room exploded. Gasps, whispers, heads turning, eyes landing on me like a spotlight I couldn't escape. "No!" I shook my head immediately. "That is not true. You're mistaken. What are you talking about?" My father stood up, voice sharp with anger. "She is your sister. She has a husband, a child. Why would she do something like this?" My mother's hands were trembling. No. There must be a misunderstanding. For 1 second, I thought this would stop here. I thought someone would see through it. But it didn't stop. My sister picked up a remote and pointed it at the large screen behind her. I knew no one would believe me, she said quietly. That's why I brought proof. The screen lit up. A photo appeared. Me, standing close to her fiancé. My breath caught in my throat. This is not what it looks like, I said quickly. Another photo, then another. Each one carefully chosen, each one looking worse than the last. This doesn't prove anything, my father said, but his voice had already lost its strength. Then messages appeared on the screen. My name! His name! I miss you. We should meet like this again after the wedding. I never sent those, I said, my voice shaking now. That is fake. I did not write that. But the whispers had already started spreading like fire. With her own sister's fiancé. How could she? At a wedding? My mother sat down slowly. My father went quiet. And everything I had ever built in this family started crumbling in real time. And then my sister looked at my husband. That moment felt heavier than everything else combined. He stepped forward. Slow, calm. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. He stopped near the stage, looked at the crowd, then said, She's telling the truth. It felt like the floor disappeared. What? My voice broke. You believe this? You know me. I've been noticing things for a while, he said. I just didn't want to accept it. No, I shook my head. No, that is not true. After seeing all of this, he glanced at the screen. I can't deny it anymore. At least you, I whispered. At least you should trust me. He said nothing, and that silence said everything. The crowd had already decided. People stepped back from me physically, like I was something to be avoided. Eyes that were warm minutes ago had gone cold. How could you do this to your own sister? This is shameful. At her wedding, her fiancé stepped forward again. This is not true, he said firmly. I would never do something like this. Nobody listened. His own father turned on him. You've ruined everything, our reputation, everything. His mother looked away. He kept trying. I didn't do anything. This is a lie. But his voice was gone, just like mine. I stood there holding my daughter, who had started crying, surrounded by everyone I knew, completely alone. Then my husband spoke again, voice colder this time. I can't live like this anymore. A pause. I'm going to divorce you. The words echoed through the hall. Everyone waited for me to collapse, to cry, to beg. I felt it. That pain. That pull toward the floor. But then I took a slow breath. And I smiled. The entire hall froze. My husband frowned. My sister's expression flickered. This was not what they expected. I looked at everyone, calm and steady. Then I said softly, Before you divorce me. A pause. You should all watch something else. Silence so thick you could feel it. I slowly turned my head toward him, my sister's fiancé. For a second he still looked stunned. Then his expression shifted completely. He smiled, not nervously, not apologetically. He smiled like a man who had been waiting for exactly this moment. My sister's grip on the microphone tightened. What is this? Her voice cracked slightly. What's happening? My husband looked between us. What's going on? Nobody answered them. I gently adjusted my daughter in my arms, took one slow step forward. Since everyone is so interested in the truth, I said quietly, let's not stop halfway. The hall was completely still. No whispers, no movement, just hundreds of eyes watching, waiting. I looked at him once more. Show them. He nodded, walked to the screen. My sister's voice shot up immediately. Stop. This isn't necessary. Stop this right now. Too late. The screen changed. Her photos disappeared, and a video began to play. A hotel. Soft lighting. A quiet corner table. 2 people sitting across from each other. My husband and my sister. The hall went absolutely silent. In the video, he reached across the table and took her hand. Not by accident, not casually. He held it the way you hold someone's hand when you've been waiting to. My sister's face drained of colour. No, she whispered. The video kept playing. They were smiling. I leaning closer, talking in a way that left nothing open to interpretation. There was no confusion in it, no misunderstanding possible. It was clear. Too clear. Gasps exploded through the hall. What is this? That can't be. Is that her husband? I said nothing. I just stood there and watched. Then the video ended, and before anyone could process what they'd just seen, an audio recording began to play. My husband's voice, unmistakable. At the wedding, we'll blame them both. Silence swallowed the room whole. Then my sister's voice. Everyone will believe us. We'll look innocent. A pause. And after that, we'll be free to be together. My mother covered her mouth with both hands. My father took a step backward. The recording continued. We just need to make it convincing. That's why I prepared everything. Photos, messages, and no one will doubt it. And once it's done, we can finally be together. No problems, no complications. The audio stopped, and the world stopped with it. For 3 full seconds, nobody moved. Then everything exploded at once. What is this? My father's voice shook the entire hall. My mother collapsed into tears. The crowd erupted, voices layering over each other, loud, angry, disbelieving. My sister stumbled backward, shaking her head. This isn't, I can... But her voice had nothing left in it. My husband stared at the screen, then at me, then at the floor. For the first time that entire night, he had absolutely nothing to say. Her fiancé stepped forward, calm, controlled. This, he said, looking slowly around the room, is the truth. His father stared at him. You knew. We both did. All eyes turned to me. I took a breath. I saw them, I said quietly, at a hotel, weeks ago. My husband's head dropped. After that, I checked his phone. Everything was there. The messages, the plan, all of it. My voice was completely steady now. No shaking, no tears. That's why we stayed quiet. We knew no one would believe us without proof. Her fiancé continued. So we let them finish their performance. That sentence landed in the room like a stone dropped in still water. And then we showed the truth. My father turned to my sister. His eyes weren't angry anymore. They were something worse than angry. They were done. You did this, he said. She didn't answer. My mother looked at her through tears. How could you? She whispered. How could you do this to your own sister? Her fiancé's father stood up, straightened his jacket. I looked at everyone in the room. This wedding is over, he said. We will not be part of this family. They walked out. My sister stood in the middle of the hall, in her bridal dress, completely exposed, completely alone. I looked at my husband. I think you said something earlier, I said calmly. He didn't respond. You wanted a divorce. Silence. You'll get it. I nodded once, just not the way you planned. His eyes widened slightly. I turned away from him. For me, this ended the moment you stood up in front of everyone and chose to destroy me. My voice was final. There's nothing left to say. After that night, everything unravelled fast. My father removed my husband from his position in the family company. Immediately, publicly, no severance, no goodbye. My sister was no longer welcome in our home. My husband lost everything. His job, his reputation, his place in a family he'd spent years pretending to love. And me? I walked away. Not broken. Not defeated. Free. Because I had spent weeks being afraid of that room. Afraid of those faces. Afraid of what they'd think when they heard the lies. And then I remembered something. The truth doesn't need to fight. It doesn't need to beg. It doesn't need to scream to be heard. It just needs the right moment to be seen. And that night, it was seen by everyone. If you're still here, thank you. That means everything. Now I want to ask you something. If you were standing in that hall and everyone turned against you, would you have stayed quiet and waited? Or would you have spoken up right then? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story reminded you of someone who needed to hear that the truth always wins, share it with them right now. There's another story waiting for you in the description. I think it's going to hit just as hard. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.